This idea that we don't share, because I literally, in my very formative years as a young adult, believed that collaboration was what made us stronger. It's what made my ideas better. It's what made me better as a person. And that was not part of the culture of learning. And I don't really see it in the culture of our profession in general. And it's been something that we've worked to overcome inside the Confident Clinician. I've always said we try and have a culture of contribution. Not only do we monetarily reward the people who contribute to TCC's platform and learning and opportunities, but we also have this idea that we want to encourage dialogue. We want to encourage picking apart some of the research together. And if I've made a mistake in a slide deck, like, honestly, can someone please just tell me? And we have this culture of wanting to put all of our resources and all of our brain power together for the betterment of everyone who's inside that ecosystem. This past fall, we hosted an in-person event. It's the second time we've done it, and man, was it magical. We put almost 50 clinicians into a room, fed them a 5-star, gluten-free, high-protein meal, and worked through some of our biggest leadership challenges in our profession. We talked about goal setting and just the things that we, kind of would feed your soul in terms of thinking about you and the way you sit inside the profession as an ND. And we worked together over the course of the 2 days. And one of the things I always want when I get high-level clinicians together with me in the room is I often will tell stories of times when I've hopped on the phone with a brand new grad, or I hopped on a Zoom call with someone I didn't know, but who deeply needed some advice, where I've shared slide decks and information with people who were in my periphery, essentially, to help the betterment of the profession. And whenever I have this sort of like captive audience of people who are feeling like their cup is full, I always ask them that when they leave, to take a risk on supporting someone else. And sometimes, when we're busy and when we're feeling a little under-resourced ourselves, and someone like pops into your DMs and is like, hey, can you tell me what it's like to be a clinic owner? Or can I preceptor with you? Or, they have an ask. When we're under-resourced ourselves, like, it feels like such a take, right? It feels like they're going to take from us. And often the answer is no, right? Like, because you don't have 15 minutes. You don't want to give away your intellectual property. You don't want to have a preceptor for a day, right? Like, the answer is usually no. But whenever I get clinicians in front of me and I know that we've filled up their cup, I ask them to take a risk on supporting someone else in their life that is walking that proverbial 15 feet behind them in their career. Because sharing the kind of information that we have in ourselves and all the stories we have of how we've overcome hardship, or we've tried things on and things, sometimes they're super successful and sometimes they're super not, is that sharing those kinds of stories or words of wisdom can go really far in someone else's life. And we can save each other from maybe having to have some of the hard moments that we've had in our own careers. So this year, when I got everybody together for the 2 days, my ask to them was to share some advice that they wished their former selves had known, or the thing that they would tell, themselves from 5 or 10 years ago. Whether it was like, watch out for this, pothole kind of advice, like don't do that, or whether it was words of wisdom about patience and consistency and believing in yourself. I let them, with an open mic, share some of their words of wisdom that they wished their past selves had known. So today's episode is actually a collection of all of that advice from people from our community who I adore, who have so much to offer. I wanted to hand the mic to them so that you could have an opportunity to hear from them and listen from them, or listen to them, to hopefully get a glimmer of hope for yourself in your career. The one thing I'll ask because now I ask this of everyone, is that after you've listened to the episode, if you remember something going forward and you are one day at a cup of coffee with a colleague or run into someone at a conference who's having a similar hard time or a similar experience, is that you pass along the advice and the information that you learn in today's podcast with them. Because again, if we keep that game of telephone going, where we keep encouraging each other, it does the entire profession so much good. So enjoy listening to the episode, and I personally will see you next week.